Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of September. My apologies for not going live yesterday. I was busy at work. But tonight, we are on the eve of a League Cup tie away in Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire in the UK to play Port Vale of League One. Delighted to be joined by Adam Keys of the Arsenal Therapy. Adam, welcome back to the firm. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on again. It's good to be here.
Mate, it's a pleasure to have you back on. Last time we spoke, it was pre the Manchester City game ad. And I want to get your thoughts to kind of start off with there. 48 hours since that game at the Emirates, 1-1 draw against Manchester City. A lot's been made of Arsenal. Too cautious from Arteta, not bold enough from Arteta. We played with the handbrake on, yet dominated City. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, before I came on, I was watching Arteta's press conference ahead of Port Vale, and some of the caginess that he had towards journalists questioning the handbrake on conversation and the narrative that's being created. I think it was a conservative approach. I understand Mikel's view that it was an attacking team in his eyes. I think Mourinho is an attacking midfielder, but he's not an adventurous attacking midfielder like an Eze or an Odegaard or that kind of profile. And when you pair him with Trossard, it becomes a very on the ball team and it becomes a team that likes to control possession. So for me, it was a negative conservative approach. I think he wanted to go out, keep the game really tight for 60, 70 minutes, and then bring on Saka and Eze to really kill the game off, maybe Martinelli as well. So I'm still really, really disappointed with the performance, the approach, and I don't really buy into the domination because yes, we had a lot of the ball, but I never felt like we were going to score. And that to me is domination. When you're peppering the goal with shots, you're really tearing a defense apart. Having the ball and going sideways a lot, yeah, we were better than I thought whenever I rewatched it. But we still weren't fantastic. We still weren't like killing them, tearing them apart, sending them into areas they didn't want to go. They played like a team that were happy in their defensive structure, and that's what worries me.
Do you think the criticism of Mikel Arteta for being cautious with the lineup or playing with the handbrake on is fair? Do you think he maybe reflects on his halftime substitutions, one of course forced by injury through Noni Madueke, which we'll talk about? Do you think he sort of looks back on that and thinks, maybe I could have gone for the jugular?
Yeah, I think the halftime changes. Mikel will never admit it. He will never admit that he got his team wrong. But the halftime substitution of Eze for Marino, that speaks louder than anything he could have said. And I think it showed that he realized that there was a game there to win, that he had to go and make a change that was going to really like completely open up that game and bring it on a player like Eze, who isn't a kind of hard presser like Marino is, but is a technical genius on the ball. That was a move for me that said he got the lineup wrong. He was willing to change it. At the time, I do wonder if Madueke hadn't got injured, if he would have taken Trossard off and put Saka on at that time. I think Mikel realised that the game state had changed, and City going 1-0 up so early completely changed any game plan he had. But I also think that the team that he picked was limited. So if City went one up, it was always going to be a big challenge. Whereas if it stayed 0-0 for 45 minutes, an hour, then yes, it might have worked. But I felt we're at home against a City side that are in regression. They're not the side that they were a couple of years ago. They're starting to rebuild. Go for it. Go and show the talent that we've got and go and try and pick them apart. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, look, likewise. But, I've reflected on the game. I've reflected on the stats. I mean, the stats really threw me. For those of you that are watching for the first time, check out the match reaction video, courtesy of Scott Willis, the match stats. But this is something that's really interesting, courtesy of Optra Analysts, our partner here at Latte Firm. Manchester City touches in the opposition box, right? Have a look at that sort of that graphic. They've never had as few touches in the opposition box in a Premier League game under Pep Guardiola. That's almost 350 games as they did against Arsenal. Just the 8 touches. And Pep, of course, I don't know if this was sort of tongue-in-cheek or joking, but he said, I want to learn to celebrate when we draw a game away at Arsenal. And that was him on being criticised of his tactics. I mean, no one has done this to a Manchester City team, as I've just articulated. We were playing at home. We probably could have gone stronger, but I don't accept the handbrake off sort of performance. And Mikel Arteta in actually today's press conference saying you can't have handbrake off, but also be completely dominant against Manchester City. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it comes back to, I think we had a lot of the ball. But when I look at the areas where it didn't feel like we were taking the risks, when I watched it back, we were definitely better than I thought we were. There were chances that I had maybe under-indexed the importance of. Zubamendi's shot that went over the bar, I think that was a better chance than I maybe give it credit in the first half. There's the Gyökeres one. I think he should be more agile there. It's one of those, yes, it does take a deflection and go behind him, but these moments in games, that's sometimes where you just have to find a way of getting that ball into the back of the net. I also think we could have had more shots. There are moments as well. I think there is an too much energy is placed on tactics at times. At times in this game, I was screaming for players to go and solve problems. And at times, it's not the manager that makes you take an extra touch of the ball. It's not the manager that makes you put the ball over the bar or leave a shot whenever it's on. These moments all matter, and that's players on the pitch. That's individual talent. That's the team performance. And I think a lot of kind of Gyökeres' performance is being pushed on to Mikel. I think sometimes we have to say, player didn't have a great game. We saw Gyökeres against Bilbao, really good game, missed some chances, but a really good game. We saw him against Forest, another really good game. In this game, he just wasn't that good. And that happens. I saw a player that worked hard, and whenever I rewatched it, I thought, you know what? He's kept running right until the end. There was one moment in the game, don't know if you remember it, but the ball's coming to Donnarumma. He's going to kick it the length of the pitch. Gyökeres starts running, and he seems to get faster and faster as he's approaching the ball. And that, to me, gave me optimism for him adapting. So I think there's times that it's tactics, and I think a bit more freedom would be really good, especially from the start. I would like to see that freedom in the first 10, 20 minutes. But then at the same time, kind of to counter my own point, we've lost the ball by attacking. City have beaten us with 2 passes. It's brilliant play from Haaland. The way he just clips that ball into Randers, who runs the length of the pitch, and Haaland was like a steam train. So we actually got caught on the counter. So yeah, I do see both sides of it, but I'm still disappointed. And I think part of this may be because of Liverpool. I'm seeing a Liverpool side getting over the line despite not playing that well. And it feels like we're playing better than them, but not always getting over the line.
Indeed. Look, the opinion is mixed. Shoro saying, FK, the question is, what do we do going forward? Hardly any team that holds a better defensive shape than us. We've got to be more creative. And Terence Tibbs, you've made your opinion clear. When you've got quality ingredients, but the chef keeps on making porridge, means the chef needs to go. We're going to have a lot of that this season, but let's wait and see. Right, let's move on to the start. Now, you've talked about Liverpool. Let's talk about our sort of 5 game days in now into the Premier League. First up, the injury crisis. Injuries continue to pile up. The image on the left-hand side showing that we have lost a player in every game that we've played this season. The latest to be Noni Madueke, who, according to Arteta, felt something at the start of the game, carried on for 45 minutes, which I find unbelievable, really. You know, at some point, players have to take responsibility for, you know, these prolonged injuries. I know there are soft tissue injuries. The manager needs to rotate better. But when a player feels something at the start of a game, for goodness sake, or like William Saliba at Anfield felt something in the pre-match warm-up, like just speak to the physios and speak to the coach and tell them that, you know, you don't want to put yourself at risk. But Madueke, as you can see, according to Sammy Mockbell, good friend of the channel, said he's going to be out for between 6 to 8 weeks. Mikel Arteta confirming that in the press conference. What do you make of all of this, Ad? Because this is depressing as hell.
It is. The Madueke news hit me pretty hard yesterday because I thought he was brilliant in the first half. Obviously, it's not an ACL. That was the big fear, and that sent everyone into meltdown. Thankfully, Sammy, David Ornstein, and another friend of the channel, Hand of Arsenal, are so accurate in their reporting. I think we're very good at calming things down. And then hopefully Arteta, when he said a few weeks, who knows what a few means for Mikel Arteta. I think this timeline is much better than what was first feared, but it's still another injury. And I think there comes a point as well. You look at every injury and there's a difference here. Havertz, it looks like some cleanup surgery on his knee. Saka's a hamstring injury. Saliba's a twisted ankle. Odegaard's another impact injury. Odegaard is the one here that I'm kind of discounting because it's such a freak accident. And for it to happen twice, he spoke about it himself that he's never had an injury like that. He's done it twice in 2 games by landing in the same spot. But Madueke, one of the things that I do wonder, given the kind of injuries, is this something to do with training? Is this something to do with recovery that Arsenal need to work on? And Arsenal will be analysing that. That is, despite everyone wanting to say the club don't know what they're doing and everyone being an expert on these things, Arsenal will be analysing this. Like it or not, it's a trend. We're seeing injuries now in 5 league games. We've also seen it in Capier have a groin injury. We've seen Norgard go down before the start of the season. Calafiori in pre-season as well. So these injuries are happening. They're continuing to be a trend. And the club will be looking into that, especially the soft tissue ones, as you mentioned, because they are a bigger worry for me than Saliba twisting his ankle. I do think anyone that's played the game knows that sometimes you can just run an injury off, and that does happen. And look, have watched Madueke's performance back. I've watched all his comps that are out there, Kimo, AFC Adi, all those guys, and I couldn't say. Well, I watched it time and time again to try and find where the injury was, and he is still moving really well right up until it's a final action before half time. And so I do wonder when you look at that, there's a chance he's told the bench that I feel something in my knee, and they've said, well, give it a few minutes. He's felt fine. And then halftime comes and suddenly the knee maybe starts swelling when he sat down, because that can happen. I've done that myself where you sit down and suddenly you look at your knee and it's really rigid and suddenly it's starting to swell. So it's really hard to know with injuries, but I do think it's a trend that can't be ignored. There's been too many this year. And I look at the volume of injuries across football, and there's a hell of a lot. There's so many injuries now, way more than I ever remember. But it feels like we're getting way more than other teams, and you just can't ignore that. You can't say it's bad luck whenever it keeps happening. It's like conceding goals in the last minute repeatedly. When it keeps happening and keeps happening, sometimes you have to look at what's the cause of this.
Yeah, look, Mikel Arteta talked about the club is going to take every measure now to sort of analyse these things, and they have been analysing for a long time. Soft tissue stuff can be avoidable depending on sort of load and warm downs, warm ups, and recoveries and strength and conditioning. With regards to stuff like this, some of it is bad luck. And Mikel Arteta, quite interestingly, sort of talking about Madueke, saying, look, he's come to a new club. There's new training regimes, new load on him, new routines, new diet, new sleeping patterns, new everything. And all of these things have an impact on the mechanics of a player and how they sort of recover. But it is a freak, and hopefully it's just going to be a few weeks. Dominic saying 2 international breaks help. It's better than having this in December and him missing 2-3 months straight. And personally, I know what it's like to recover. I'm recovering from a sprained MCL myself. I'm into the last 8 weeks now. I've been injured for 8 weeks. I've got the last couple of weeks now ahead of me, and I'm beginning to walk and jump and hop and turn and run without any sort of pain in my knee, which is great. Can I just give a shout out to Rob? Says, I finally made a live show watching from the US of A. Big fan of UFK. And Adam, thank you for your kind words. Big up to all of the Arsenal family here. Come on, you Gunners. Talking of Arsenal family, a very warm welcome to our Patreon members and to our channel members. I am going to take a couple of you to the breakdown on Arsenal match day. So if you're on Patreon, check the chat. I will let you know details very, very shortly. Let's move away from injuries and talk about the start to the season. Review at match day 5. These graphics, again, courtesy of our great partner, Opta Analyst. The league table on the left-hand side. Not pretty viewing. Liverpool top. The last-minute daggers, the wins, but they are 15 points out of 15. We are there in second on goal difference above the old enemy. And the graphic on the right-hand side, for anybody who's not seen it, these are what Opta Analyst have calculated as the fixture difficulty list. Manchester United top with their opening 5 games being the most difficult sequence of 5 games in the Premier League. And there are Arsenal third. Annoyingly, Liverpool in 5th. So they had pretty tough fixtures, yet there they are handsomely at the top of the table. What have you made of the 5 games from both Liverpool and Arsenal, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, this is always a really tough thing. The opponent average rating for the hardest 5 games, we know how difficult our start is. Man United have had a very difficult start as well, but I would say our start has been incredibly difficult too, be away at Liverpool so early on, be away at Old Trafford. Again, first game, players are coming back, new signings are being embedded into the team. Then City so quickly. Even Forest, I think we saw that as an easy 3 points. Forest just narrowly missed out on the Europa League last year and ended up getting in anyway. But they were a good side. And we played them straight after they got a new manager as well, which you never know what you're going to get. So the start we've had has been incredibly difficult. And then to have Newcastle at the end of this kind of 5-game run, a ground where we've had one win in 4 years, is insane. It's one that I think after Newcastle, I'm really going to judge it, because at the minute, I think the City game still feels like, but we've got Newcastle next. If we beat City, I think I would be a bit more relaxed, but it feels like if we go to St James's, get a win there, and come away with 13 points out of 18, to be honest, I think that's a decent return. It's a couple less than I wanted. I was hoping we get 15 out of 18 from that run. Really hoping we would have got 18 out of 18, but here we are. And I think 13, given that we would have potentially won at St James's, given our record there, been to Anfield, been to Old Trafford, you look at that points run and the teams that we've got out of the way, then I feel, yeah, you know what, let's go on a real winning run now. We've got Saka back, we've got Odegaard back, other players are starting to return, and some of our new signings are really settling in. But drop points at St James's, and suddenly we have a mountain to climb, because and I do think Liverpool's results have been a major factor in this. You look at the Newcastle game, 95 minutes, Newcastle are pressing on, 10 men, 2 each. And suddenly the shape goes, and you think you've got another 6 minutes to hang on here, calm it down. And they don't. And suddenly Liverpool win 3-2 in the last minute of the game. The Burnley game, excellent defending. Suddenly you see Hannibal just put his arm out in the last minute of the game, and they're getting that luck. And that's part of the issue, I think, right now. We judge everything on results. And yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Because it's a really strange one.
As you were talking, just a couple of things. Vig says Liverpool have had a difficult start as well. I think I sort of mentioned that. Bournemouth, Newcastle aren't easy fixtures. They are 5-5. Everybody's everybody. Get that. Add to your point, if we come away from St James's Park with a win, hopefully, and they are an Alexander Isak-less team, they've had their own trouble at the start of this season. 13 out of 18 points is not a bad return when you think about those fixtures. And like you say, you've kind of etched Anfield off the list. You've etched Old Trafford, which isn't a difficult place for most teams, but seems to be always the voodoo place for us. You've kind of scratched City off, and we're comfortable that we can go. We're confident that we can go to the Etihad and maybe get a result. And we've scratched off St James's Park, which was always a nemesis ground. So, I think I'm going to answer your question like how Pep Guardiola answered it on Sky Sports on Sunday, where he was asked, do you care that you're so far behind the league leaders at this stage of the season? And he said, look, in the 4 seasons that he's won the Premier League, they weren't top once at around sort of, December time, January time. And he also said that the league season sort of really kicks off March, April. You've got to stay in the mix. And I think we've been around long enough now to know that, sometimes we've started really strong. Sometimes we've started really terribly, and then we finished really strong. I think the idea is you've just got to stay in that mix. That's top 2, 3, past Christmas, see in the new year, come sort of, League Cup final time. Around then, that's when things start to get interesting. The Champions League knockout phase, keep the squad fit, and you got to go from there. And while you were talking, Ed, I've just brought up the another graphic courtesy of Aptra Analyst, which is basically telling us which teams have over or underperformed based on game outcome simulations based on individual shot XG in accumulation. And so Arsenal, as you can see in second, we are bang on. So actual position against expected position based on the shot XG. But look at Liverpool. Their expected position based on individual shot XG and their actual position first. And this goes to the point where people are saying what they're doing isn't sustainable. So they've largely overperformed by quite some way. And there they are, top of the league. I mean, look, Liverpool fans aren't going to care. And there is an argument to suggest that they might even get much better. But what we've seen so far, they have gotten away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've made a really good point there right at the end, that they may get a lot better. Right now, where they're at, this isn't sustainable. But in a month's time, they could be beating teams 4-0 with Isaac and Ekatike and really banging goals. And we know Mo Salah's had a slow start. He still scored some goals, but he hasn't been tearing it up. But we know what he can do. We also know the quality that they've got outside that front three. So they could get a lot better. And I think that's the scary thing. I think they will get a lot better. Florian Wirtz will get better. Even Szoboszlai, Gravenberg, McAllister, they're all great players. So I do think they'll get better, but I also think we'll get better. The issues we've got right now are kind of final third, but we've not had our best player for those key games. Even if you look at what Saka did when he came on against City, the intelligence of his decision making, how progressive he is at getting the ball up the park, everything just works when he gets the ball. And we haven't had him since what, 40, 50 minutes into the Leeds game. So you take that out, you realize that we barely had our captain on the pitch this season. We haven't had Kai Havertz, who was our top scorer last season. And a lot of our new signings are still very, very new. I think we will get better. And that's something that's given me a lot of optimism. And teams will take points off Liverpool. At the minute, it seems like they will never drop points. And we've been here before where there's been a team ahead of you that you think they're never going to lose, but they will. And that's going to happen. And hopefully, whenever they do drop points, they go on a run of games where they maybe have 2 or 3 and suddenly we go on a winning run. That's how the table works. It's 38 games and there's a long, long way to go.
There is a long way to go. Jonathan says, after everything, 10 points isn't bad, but this weekend is huge as Arsenal head to St James's on Sunday. Title number 14 says, are we starting the injury excuses early this year? Look, the injuries are serious. You know, some may say an excuse, others may say, look, just the reality. It's bad luck. It's a mix of maybe overplaying some of our players, but that is the situation. That's why we have a stacked squad. Let's move away from the domestic start and let's talk about the League Cup. And before we talk about our starting lineups and predictions and think about the game tomorrow, I want to get your thought on this. And chat, let me know what you think. Is the League Cup a must-win for Mikel Arteta? Does it prove anything to you? Does it potentially ignite the catalyst to a future relentless, assault of trophies for Arsenal Football Club? Ad, where does it rank in your priorities?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the lowest, but I would still like to win it. I know people will disagree with me, but I think a lot of the League Cup depends on the draw you get. If you go out and you get first 3 rounds are fairly favourable, and then you can rest players and you're not playing the I guess your star players in these early games, then great, go and get a run together. The hard part of this competition is where the semi-finals land. We saw it last year. We sailed through and then we hit Newcastle. And when that draw was made last year, Newcastle were in dire form. By the time we played them, they had won every game for the last month. So I think a big part of it is how the draw falls in this. But I would like to see us win it. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel that silverware is just a must. And until we win something, we're always going to have this reputation of being the almost club. And I see the quality in the squad. I see how good of a coach Mikel is. And I see the journey. But I do think it has to take that next step. And the League Cup isn't going to change the narrative. But I do wonder if, can that be the catalyst? You win it in what, March is the final now?
February. So, yeah, it could be March now. Yeah,
February and March, and I feel like it can set you up for the end of the season if you win it. But at the same time, it can also have a big impact on your season if you end up going out in the semi-final, because it's 2 games at a time when the fixture schedule's already massively congested.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go against the grain slightly, much to the annoyance of maybe some of our viewers and certainly Wayne, who loves this cup. This is a bonus. It's a nice to have. It's not a must win. I think it could have a positive impact on the tail end of the season if you can get to Wembley and win it, of course. It is a trophy we've not won since 1993, and it is a tournament that obviously, would be lovely to win. Lovely day out at Wembley. I will never, ever take that for granted. However, I don't think it means anything. I don't think it moves the needle. I don't think it's what the players will be, looking at the start of the season as this is the trophy or a trophy that we desperately want to win. But let's take a look at what some people are saying. I've basically asked in the YouTube chat a poll. Is the League Cup a must-win for Mikel Arteta? Anajit says that every cup this year is a win for Mikel. For his own sake, he's got to taste trophies. This squad deserves trophies. Vig says, yes, it's the first trophy. Majority of the squad hasn't won anything at Arsenal. It's a morale booster. And M. Dot says, League Cup won't save Arteta's job, but it could be a catalyst. The last time we won it, I was giving my age away. Bring home the trophy. I was a little bit older than that, M. Dot. The lowest rank, but fun to follow, says Thotti. Thotti, I think your son is coming and you are coming to Crystal Palace, aren't you? Thanks for supporting the channel on Patreon. Play the reserves until we meet the big teams. Go for the win in all the comps this year. The squad is big enough. And D-Day Spring says League Cup will be a bonus and good icing on the cake of a UCL or Premier League victory. Terence Sims not having any of it. Surprise, surprise. It's got to be the title or the Champions League. And D-Day Spring's been harping on about this all season. The quadruple is incoming. Right, let's turn our attentions ahead to the League Cup. By the way, did you see the action tonight? Hugo Ekitike getting his second booking and a red card for taking his shirt off and celebrating. Arnie Slot will not be happy.
Have you seen Frimpong?
Yeah,
running over.
I have. Do you know what the dynamics of the dressing room tonight will be very interesting, I think. So let's see what happens there. Right, let me end the poll. So I asked the question: is the League Cup a must-win for Arsenal? 56% of our viewers think yes. Interesting. 44% say no. As you were talking, I brought up our starting lineup from Manchester City ad, again, courtesy of Optra Analyst. We have a stacked squad. We know that. We've seen the first day at school photo of the entire squad. There's going to be changes tomorrow. Mikel Arteta's alluded to that. So let's go through the team. Goalkeeper-wise, are we expecting Kepa to make his debut for Arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. At right back, I'm not sure if Ben White is fit to play. He was on the bench against Man City. Are you expecting him to start?
He trained today, so he was in the training photos. So I want to see him play. I really, really hope he's fit. So yeah, he's someone that I'm a bit worried about at the minute. So I really want to see him on the pitch.
Yeah, the last couple of sort of moments where he's missed games, it's due to minor knocks, two separate minor knocks, one after the other. I really want to see Ben White play. I was really calling for him the last sort of 20, 25 minutes against City on Sunday. I thought Timber was tiring. Certainly don't want to see Timber get another run out tomorrow. Maybe Mosquera could play right back. Who knows? Centre-backs, Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes. I mean, lots of options. Piero Hincapié, believe it or not, injured, won't play tomorrow. Ricky Calafiori's obviously been ever-present. Magalhaes has been ever-present. William Saliba's been ever-present. But if we're talking about Ben White, we're talking about Mosquera. What else do you do?
I guess I would start Lewis Skelly at left back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the obvious one. I think he needs minutes. We need to get him sharp as well because he's too good of a player to be sitting on the bench every week. And Calafiori is someone that we need to protect. I think one of the two centre backs starts just because my gut would say it's Saliba, just because he missed a few games and it's a chance to just get some minutes under his legs. In probably, let's face it, it's going to be a walk in the park if everything goes to plan. Saliba shouldn't have a lot to do.
Famous last words.
So I was at Forest when they beat us 4-2 in the FA Cup. So yeah, who knows? But yeah, Saliba maybe just to. I mean, he had a decent game at the weekend, and so yeah, he would maybe be the one. I think Gabriel obviously came back a lot later, and I wouldn't want to risk him just because he missed so much football. I think this is maybe a game that we want to protect him for. So Mosquera and maybe Saliba. Yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, look, I think one of the experienced two centre-backs are going to start. I think Ricky Calafiori needs to just go out of the team, control his sort of load and give him a breather. Hopefully he's not even travelling with the squad. And Sunday is massive, and I want to see him back in. Miles Lewis-Skelly, slipping into that left-back position is absolutely the right thing to do. Viggs is suggesting these are the games where you play MLS in midfield. I think these are the games where you take minutes out of Calafiori's legs because he's been fantastic and we know what he's like. One of the two will play. Saliba didn't look his best on Sunday. He looked like a player who'd been out for 3 or 4 weeks. So, maybe 45 minutes tomorrow, get him, get some more sort of minutes in his legs, get that sharpness up for Sunday. So that's what I'd do. I'd do Saliba and Mosquera. I'd do Ben White right back, Miles Lewis-Skelly left back. And that's a fantastic back four with Kepa in goal. Middle three. Martin Odegaard is going to be back because his shoulder injury wasn't anything sort of worth surgery, but I'm not sure he'll be fit enough to start tomorrow. What are you doing in midfield? I mean, Rice, Zubimendi, and Marino.
I'm going with Norgard. I'm not going to attempt the proper pronunciation. But yeah, I'm going with him. I think he's overdue a run out. He's obviously missed a fair bit of football at the beginning of the season, and he's ready to make his first start. Should come in fairly seamless, ready to go. Alongside him, I think I would go with Marino and then probably one Airy, just because I'm not quite sure where else we go in midfield. I don't want to see Rice or Zubimendi play. The other option is Eze getting another run out just with the Arsenal team. But at the same time, it's that argument I would rather have him fresh for the weekend. So I don't know. It depends. If it's a choice between playing Eze in this game in midfield and playing Ethan on the right to make sure that we don't. I don't want to see Saka. That's the one thing. I just don't think this is a game that we need to risk him for. I'm all for getting players fit, but I just worry that this is the kind of game that catches up with Saka over the course of the season.
But can Saka go from 45 minutes against City and then have a week off and then go straight into St James's? I mean, he's got to start on Sunday. So I personally, I agree with you. I don't like to see Saka play these games, but I think Mikel is going to use tomorrow just to get maybe an hour into Saka's legs ahead of Sunday.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he played in this fixture last year when we played Bolton, and he came on against Preston. So it could be. It's a strange one with Saka. Jonathan in the comments, he might need 20 minutes. I think that's possible. So yeah, 60 minutes, I'd be a bit more worried about. Cold night in Stoke. We've been there before. So, so yeah, it's, I don't know. I think I'm scarred by Saka's
it's the
last
PTSD
two
coming
injuries.
back in. I know.
So yeah, I'm not protective of Saka at all. I think play your best players, but yeah, I think in midfield, I would play Marino in this game. I would play Norgard and then either Eze or Ethan Waneri. Because
Yeah.
I think Marino is a great player. I just don't think him, Rice, and Zubimendi as a trio work in a lot of games.
It doesn't. And, you know, one win in 10 Premier League games that Rice and Marino have played together. So I think Mikel Arteta's got to do some sort of fine-tuning there. Shorov says Saka, he needs to be in his living room watching the game from his couch. Whereas Guna for Life says Saka needs some minutes tomorrow. 45, I think. Look, I'm going to go with you. I think Norgard in midfield. I think Marino needs to play in midfield and whack in Ethan Waneri. Eze, just to Viggs's point, I mean, come on. Rest Eze for St James's Park. He played 45 minutes on Sunday. This is a guy who's had a full pre-season with Palace. Didn't start at Anfield. Didn't start against City. I think he's got to get minutes in the tank because if you're expecting him to start and to fly on Sunday, he's going to need minutes. But there we are. And finally, up top for you. I mean, Leo Trossard started, much to a lot of Arsenal fans' dismay on Sunday. Noni Madueke is obviously out. Could be Saka, but I want to hear your thoughts. And who plays up front for you?
I'm going with Trossard, Martinelli, and then the third one is kind of up for grabs. Part of me thinks play Gyökeres, let him play 45 minutes, let him go out and bully someone, get a couple of goals, and go to St James's Park confident.
Stat pad.
So yeah, but I think with strikers, I know we talk about stat padding, but it's for a striker, yes, you score in the biggest game. It means that bit more and you'll be even more confident. But I do think strikers feed off goals. The more they score, the more confident they are, the more, the less they think about the final action and the more seamless playing in and around the box becomes. So I do wonder, and I also wonder about his fitness. Could a 60 minutes for him or a 45 actually do him good? I still think that he's looking a bit cumbersome, carrying maybe a bit more weight than I would like to see him. But at the same time, that is kind of his build. I do wonder if he could do with a run out. But at the same time, I do understand he's played a fair bit of football already. And there is no sign of a huge rest coming anytime soon for him. And we're going to need him at St James's. So yeah, if it's, I wouldn't be against a front three of Trossard with Martinelli through the middle, one area on the right, and then a midfield trio of Norgard, Eze, and Marino.
Quite balanced. Can't disagree with that. I think you'll go with Trossard left, Martinelli up top, and I think you'll go with Saka to start on the right with Eze, Marino, and Norgard. And then I think Wanyeri comes on for Saka in the second half. Lots of people asking about Dauman. Would you chuck him in?
You know, I was just thinking there. He started a fair few young players last year against Bolton, and I know we were at home, but I'm pretty sure Aiden Heaven started that game. Josh Nichols did, and there were a couple of other young players. I mean, he started the Tommy Setford at Preston. He started was it Porter against Bolton when he was 16. So who knows? He's been talking about Diamond in his press conference. I don't know if you watched it, and he talked about him sticking it through senior players' legs. And they asked how he reacted, and he said they kicked him.
It's a good development.
So yeah.
Look, listen, it's going to be fascinating to see what Mikel Arteta does. He's got to use the squad, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one or two of our regular first teamers. And listen, Victor Gyökeres, what better way to celebrate being the best striker in the world than playing away on a rainy night in Port Vale? Let me know your predictions for the Port Vale versus Arsenal game. Add in closing your thoughts on the fixture. I mean, look, Port Vale hovering at the wrong end of League One. They've, in their last 5 games, they've lost 4, won their most recent fixture. Even though they're at home, surely it's an Arsenal win for you.
Yeah, 5-0.
5-0?
I'm going 5-0.
You've been sincere.
Yes.
Okay. Anajic says 3-1, hopefully to the Arsenal. M. Dot says, I'm a dreamer when it comes to scorelines. 5-0. Guna for Life says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Shoulder says 3-0 to the Arsenal. Jonathan says 4-0 to the Arsenal. Wow, you guys are confident. Gaming since 2010 says 3-0 to the Arsenal. Manny says 2-0. Dave says 2-0. I'm not going to go with... Oh, there's always one.
I'm liking Adrian.
6-0, Adrian. Look, I think we'll win. I don't think it'll be that comfortable, but I think we'll probably 3-1, 4-1, something like that. I'm hoping. I just want us to get minutes in the right legs, come away unscathed, easy, comfortable victory. Let's not even mess around with the thought of penalties. Score early, score first, and just take complete control of the game. And that is what I'm looking for. Okay, well, that's been fun. Thank you, Ad, for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. There we have it, ladies and gents, boys and girls. We've looked back at the Manchester City game with some calmness. We've reviewed the first 5 games of the Premier League and looked at Liverpool, and we seem to sort of think that it's not going to be sustainable, but let's see. Maybe they get better. And Arsenal are in a good place. If we can win tomorrow, go to St. James's and get the win on Sunday, 13 out of 18 isn't the worst return. If anybody wants to follow Adam, he's available at AdamKeys_. If you are a Patreon member, check out the chat tomorrow or Thursday. I will invite 1 or 2 of you to be my guest at the Arsenal Matchday show, the breakdown live from N5. Olympiacos, the Champions League game. Maybe that'll be the special one for you guys. And thanks a lot for all of the chat tonight. Hundreds of you watching live on YouTube. Please do drop a like on the video. And if you've enjoyed the content, drop me a subscribe. Tomorrow we'll be back with a match reaction video. So look after yourselves, sleep well, enjoy your evenings, and bye for now.